When you receive your kit, you're going to get the chamber with the external adjustment, as well as all the hardware you need. So let's jump right in. First thing you're going to do is remove the screw to pull off the external adjustment, and then remove these two bottom screws here. Now you're going to see your nub inside, and that should come out. A little bit of tapping, so there's your nub. And you can go ahead and set your nub and the screw off to the side. They go together. We'll go over those later. But now you can insert your hop-up unit inside of your outer barrel. Slide it in, and your one screw hole will line up with that. Take one of your screws you just took off, insert it in. You want to make sure that your edge of your hop-up is lined up with your outer barrel, as you can see. You want to make it as straight as possible. It's got a little bit of rock, so it should level out. You want to tighten this screw down, not too tight. And then we're going to take your small drill bit and we're going to drill through this hole and this first one here. You can see the drill goes through. Do not drill through the threaded one, the one next to it, and then this small one here. So let's do that. Okay, after you drill out that hole and that hole, we're going to remove the hop-up unit and we're going to clean everything out for all the metal shavings that we created. This was done previously, so ignore this. These are the two holes we just made. So let's go ahead and remove this unit. Okay, so before we clean everything out, we're going to take our Baker drill bit now and we're going to step up just this first one. Not the one that goes over the nub, but just the one that's closest to where you mounted it. So let's go ahead and drill that out. Now we're going to have a bunch of metal chips inside the outer barrel. So we're going to make sure we get all those out. If you have an air compressor, I'd recommend that. But the inside should be pretty smooth. The outside is where your edges are going to be. So take sandpaper, or if you have some sort of deburring tool for holes like I do, you can simply hit those really quick. And now your outside of your barrel should be pretty smooth. Now we got to take apart our hop-up unit and clean that out. So remove these 4 screws here and the 2 halves should split apart. As you see, we got the half split. There's metal chips everywhere. Now's a good time to reorganize and clean everything out before we move forward. After you clean everything up and pull your 2 halves apart, you should see these 4 screws that are sticking up. Go ahead and remove those. Now we're going to go ahead and assemble everything. Your O-ring with 2 screws will already be in it, as well as your locating pins for your inner barrel. So all you got to do is take your inner barrel bucking, align it with those tabs you see on your inner barrel, and it should slide right in, fit all the way down to the chamber. Now you can take those 4 screws you just removed and put them back in the same location. Okay, now your inner barrel is clamped into the top half of the chamber. You don't have to go tight with these. I would recommend a small dab of blue Loctite and just snug them in so your barrel won't go anywhere. They don't have to be tight. You don't want it to damage your inner barrel. So next thing we're going to do is take your bottom half and install that. You're going to see a small gap, but that's going to be closed up. Take your 4 screws that you removed to split the chamber in half, take those and reinstall. Now that you have your chamber assembled, you don't have to go tight with these as well. Same thing, if you want to put a little bit of blue Loctite on them, make sure they don't go anywhere. I used the long end of the Allen wrench just to make sure I didn't strip them out. But next thing we're going to do is insert this in our outer barrel. But first, take your nub, make sure it's in place. You can actually check to make sure your bucking is applying hop before we do this, but I've already checked and it's good. So once you insert your nub, you're going to take the hop up unit and insert it in the outer barrel, making sure that your nub doesn't fall out like it almost did. I recommend keeping it facing up until at least it enters the outer barrel. And now we can flip it over. All right, and if you want, you can insert your barrel block now, hop-up block, whatever you want to call it. The 2 screws that you removed in the beginning, go ahead and insert those. Okay, now that we have that on, it's a good point to note that you may want to drill out this hole on your barrel block with the bigger drill bit. And you may also want to drill out the small hole that you didn't chase before with the bigger one. Make them both the big size to make things a little bit easier for you when you install. But I recommend right now, before you tighten this up all the way, back it up a little bit, and I will explain that. So after that's done, everything's still kind of loose, you can hear it. You're gonna take your small little grub screw here with the small Allen wrench. You can insert the Allen wrench, and then it's gonna go in the hole that is going over the nub. It should be nice and easy to go in. You can put blue Loctite on this as well, but I don't think it's really necessary. For this one, I'm actually going to use the side that gives you more torque, just a little bit. You can see I'm only putting like finger pressure on it. There we go. So now that's your adjustment screw for your nub. Now we can take our external adjustment and install that. So take your dial off. Screw that onto the screw that you put in. Make sure that your engraving is facing up. And this should just spin on there. Just go until it stops. See, I'm not putting any pressure, but it won't spin anymore. Now we can take our cover, snap that on there, our last screw. Should go pretty smooth. Now's a good time to make sure everything is centered. So everything's still loose. The chamber can move around a little bit. You can look in the outer barrel and see where your hop up is placed. You can go back and forth, tighten this one a hair, tighten these two a hair, and this is your chance to make your hop up unit centered in the outer barrel. If you tighten this side down, it might pull the hop up unit down. If you tighten this one first, it might pull it up. It's not a big deal, but if you want to make sure it's perfectly centered, you can just go back and forth and kind of give them both little snugs. Just cross them back and forth. And there we have it. That is everything assembled. And now you can look down your outer barrel and through the chamber. You can adjust it and make sure it's putting pressure. If you do have play between your dial and your base and your outer barrel, if this is moving at all, you can shim it with anything thin, but as you can see, it's nice and tight in there. There's no movement and clicks very nicely. So that's the install. Hopefully it's helped you guys out, and happy shooting.